Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at the source material for what might be one of the most influential and definitely one of the most controversial personal finance books ever. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And we're not just doing a summary, we're going straight to the introduction, the origin story, to really pull apart the core ideas that made it so explosive.
Right. It's all built on this foundation of having two fathers, two very powerful influences who gave him completely, and I mean completely different advice about money.
It's a fascinating setup.
It really is.
Yeah.
So on one side, you've got his biological father, the poor dad, and this man was the picture of academic success. Highly educated, a PhD, studied at places like Stanford and Northwestern.
A successful, hardworking guy, a high-ranking government employee.
Exactly. But the source material is clear. Despite all that education, despite a good salary, he struggled with money his entire life. He actually died, leaving behind unpaid bills.
And then you have the complete opposite, the rich dad. This was his best friend's father.
And his education.
He never finished the 8th grade. By any normal standard, he was an academic failure. But he went on to become one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii.
Leaving behind tens of millions of dollars to his family, to charities.
It's just an incredible contrast.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because the painful difference between these two lives is the whole puzzle, isn't it? The highly educated man who struggled versus the dropout who just completely mastered wealth creation.
It is. And what's so interesting is that the author says he learned the most, not by just picking one and rejecting the other,
No.
but by constantly comparing them, by setting their ideas against each other. And that process, he says, forced him to think for himself, which was the real education.
And that thinking led him to the book's, well, its central claim. It's a very confrontational claim about why so many smart, hardworking people just can't get ahead financially.
It is. The core idea, when you synthesize it from the sources, is pretty straightforward. People struggle financially because they spend all these years in school learning professional skills.
How to be a doctor, a lawyer, an employee.
Right, but they learn absolutely nothing about money. The result is you have this whole population of people who are trained to work for money, but they never learn how to have money work for them.
And the book doesn't ease you in. It promises to just explode some sacred cows from the very beginning. The sources lay out 4 key beliefs it's going to challenge.
Yes, and they're big ones. First, it promises to destroy the myth that you have to earn a high income to get rich.
Okay.
Second, and this is probably the most famous one, it challenges that core middle-class belief that your house is an asset.
That's the one everyone talks about.
Third, it says it will finally give you a crystal clear definition of an asset versus a liability. And fourth, it makes the case that parents simply cannot rely on the school system to teach their kids about money.
Let's really dig into that house idea. The house is a liability. I mean, it flies in the face of what generations of people have been told.
Oh, absolutely. The poor dad's mindset was, our home is our largest investment and our greatest asset.
Which is what most people believe. It's the American dream,
But
right?
It is. But the rich dad's counterpoint was so radical. He said, my house is a liability, and if your house is your largest investment, you're in trouble.
Wow. So to even understand that, you have to get inside his very specific definitions of those words.
You have to. It's all about cash flow. It's incredibly simple. An asset in this philosophy is anything that puts money in your pocket.
Puts money in. Okay.
And a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket.
That's it.
Yep.
So your home, with its mortgage, property taxes, insurance, upkeep, all that money is flowing out every single month.
Constantly flowing out. So by that strict definition, it's not an asset. It's a liability.
And that one insight, that one reframing changes everything.
It's the whole point. He argued that the middle class gets trapped because they spend their lives buying liabilities that they think are assets.
And this wasn't just some abstract financial theory for them. It showed up in how they talked every single day.
Absolutely. The language they used was a direct reflection of their mindset. Take affordability, for example. The poor dad's default phrase was, I can't afford it.
Well, full stop. End of conversation.
Exactly. The rich dad, on the other hand, forbade those words. He insisted that instead of a statement, you had to ask a question.
How can I afford it?
How can I afford it? Yes. And the reasoning is, it's really profound. He believed, I can't afford it, shuts your brain down. It's a sign of mental laziness.
But asking how forces your brain to work, to find solutions.
It engages the problem. He called the brain the most powerful computer in the world. And asking that question is like running a new program. It opens up possibilities instead of closing them down.
This connects directly to another key distinction he made, right? The difference between being broke and being poor.
A huge one. The rich dad always called himself rich. Even when he had huge financial setbacks, he'd say, there's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary.
Poor is eternal.
Poor is eternal. It's a state of mind.
Mhm.
And the poor dad, sadly, had already decided his fate with his words. He'd say things like, I'll never be rich.
And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It did.
And, underneath all of this language is a really different emotional connection to money itself.
Hmm.
The poor dad seemed almost afraid of it.
Or at least deeply conflicted. He'd say things like, the love of money is the root of all evil. Or he'd just be dismissive, money doesn't matter.
In the rich dad's view,
The complete opposite. He'd counter that the lack of money is the root of all evil.
because of the stress, the hardship, the choices it takes away.
Exactly, and he was very clear. Money is power. That simple difference determines whether you see financial education as something worth pursuing or as something corrupting.
So we've seen how their words shape their thinking. Let's talk about how that translated into totally opposite strategies for life, for careers, for taxes.
They collided on pretty much everything. Taxes are a great example and a very politically charged one.
Right.
The poor dad, who was part of the government system, believed the rich should pay more in taxes to take care of everybody else.
Which is a very common perspective.
A very common perspective. The rich dad, however, saw taxes as a penalty. He thought they punished people who produce value and rewarded people who don't.
So he taught the author to understand the system.
To understand the tax code not as a moral document, but as a set of incentives. He taught him how the wealthy use corporations and legal structures to minimize their tax burden legally so they can keep reinvesting.
And we should be clear here, we're just impartially reporting on the two viewpoints that are laid out in the sources. We're not taking a side.
Exactly. And you see the same opposition in their career advice. Poor dad's advice was, study hard so you can find a good company to work for.
The path of the employee. Security. A steady paycheck.
The traditional path. Rich dad's advice. Study hard so you can find a good company to buy.
That is just a completely different universe. It's a shift from employee to owner.
From seeking security to creating investments. And it highlights this massive split between relying on others versus relying on yourself.
The poor dad really counted on the company, on the government for his future. Pay raises, retirement plans, benefits.
He had an entitlement mentality, according to the source. He felt he was owed those things because of his job and his education.
But the rich dad believed in total financial self-reliance.
He was emphatic about it. He saw that kind of reliance on external systems as a trap, something that made people financially weak and dependent. He believed in controlling your own financial future.
So if you just boil it all down to their actions.
The results tell the story. Poor dad taught the author how to write a great resume to get a job. Rich dad taught him how to write a business and financial plan to create jobs.
It all comes back to that education gap we started with. Schools teach you how to be a good employee, but not how to be an owner.
They teach academic and professional skills, but not financial skills. And the sources argue this is why you see incredibly smart people, bankers, doctors, accountants, who can still be a total mess with their own money. They know how to work within the system, but not how to build assets for themselves.
The sources even take it a step further, suggesting that this financial illiteracy among educated leaders could be a reason for things like huge national debts.
It's a bold claim, but it illustrates the potential real-world consequences when even the people in charge lack fundamental training in how money actually works.
So we have this kid, 9 years old, standing between these two powerful father figures, and he makes a choice.
He does. He chose to listen to the rich dad. And that was the beginning of his real financial education, a process that he says lasted for over 30 years.
And what's amazing is that this education wasn't some complex, overwhelming thing. The whole philosophy in the book is really built on just 6 main lessons.
That's right, 6 simple core lessons taught over time. And they aren't about picking hot stocks or anything like that. They're guideposts. They're about mindset, about definitions like asset versus liability, and about managing cash flow so you can navigate an uncertain world.
So after this deep dive into the introduction, what does it all mean for you, the listener? I think the core lesson isn't really about picking a side.
No, it's about the act of thinking itself. The author learned the most by considering both viewpoints, holding the safety-first mentality against the creation-first mentality. That critical thinking is more powerful than just blindly following one set of rules.
It suggests that financial education, that critical mindset, is actually more powerful than money itself. And that choice in how you think, whether you see a setback as temporary or as your permanent fate, is the real difference maker.
And he closes that thought by referencing Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. He reflects on how painful it was to choose this less conventional path, the one his rich dad showed him, but that it was the decision that shaped his entire life.
And we'll leave you with that image and a question that comes directly from these sources. When you're faced with conflicting advice from two strong voices in your life, the one that tells you to seek employment safety, steady raises, and rely on the system, and the one that tells you to seek investment creation, manage risk, and rely on yourself, which road, however well-worn or grassy, will you choose to explore for your own financial future? That fundamental choice is the powerful foundation of the philosophy of the two dads.